Hello, my name is Molina. I am the International Director for the Climate Reality Project, and I would like to thank South Africa's Green Building Council for the invitation to participate in this incredible event. Unfortunately, I am not able to be with you in person because the topic that I'm covering, climate change, visited at my doorsteps just last week. In our community, the Cold Springs fire burned 600 acres, threatening over 600 homes and leading to the evacuation of 2,000 people, including my family. 5 of our neighbors' houses were burned down, and over the last couple of weeks the restoration and cleanup efforts have required for me to stay here rather than being able to join you. However, I very much appreciate this opportunity. The Climate Reality Project is an organization that was founded by former US Vice President Al Gore, and our mission is to catalyze a global solution to the climate crisis by making urgent action a necessity across all sectors of society: government, private sector, and civil society. We do this by training climate reality leaders, of which one of the organizers of this event, Dion Roberts, participated in one of our events. And we do this worldwide, and we use cutting-edge grassroots communications and engagement tools as well. So we ask that you join us in this effort. Following the seminal agreement that was reached in Paris. Last December in Paris, 179 nations came together and signed an agreement to take urgent action on climate change and reduce emissions, marking a pivotal change in our approach to climate change. Over the last 10 years, we have gone from debating whether climate change was real and human cost in certain countries, all the way to agreeing that action is urgent and engaging most of the nations of the world and also great players in the in the private sector. Now, the agreement is a change also in how the United Nations has approached this issue. In the past, it was a top-down approach with the UN dictating how much each country had to reduce. The agreement reviewed that approach to a bottom-up approach, recognizing that many of the countries that will be impacted most by climate change actually bear the least historical responsibility, such as South Africa. We can see in this graph, South Africa does not even show up in a chart of the top emitters. However, South Africa bears the brunt of climate impacts through fires, droughts, and sea level rise. Already, South Africa spends millions on fire suppression every year. So the Paris Agreement now stands as a beacon of hope that has catalyzed climate action worldwide. Leaders now have a 2-year period during which they have submitted their national commitments, 2, they have set a long-term goal for reductions, and they have agreed to a global review every 5 years. Over the next couple of years, leaders will need to submit a mechanism for implementation of their commitments. Most of these commitments actually cover sectors in which government intervention can reduce emissions from a particular sector. So they usually focus on electricity and heat production, agriculture and land use, industry, transportation, and buildings, and other energy sources. So this is the area that this audience has a particular potential for impact in, and we hope that you will join us in this effort. The investment required to actually meet the Paris commitments and stabilize global temperatures at 2 degrees, 1.5 degrees Celsius will require an entire transformation of the economy in the scale of almost $300 trillion. In order to do that, the investment required will be $500 billion per year by 2020 and $1 trillion by 2030. Which means that we need almost $1,000 billion projects per year in order to reach the commitments. It is a great challenge, but we have all of the financial mechanisms and the political willpower to do so. Now, most of this investment right now is earmarked towards mitigation approaches. But about 15 to 17% of the global investment global public investment going right now towards climate change is geared towards adaptation. The reality is that most nations, including South Africa, will have to balance mitigation, adaptation priorities with economic growth and development. So South Africa recognizes in its nationally determined contribution that its power fleet is old and outdated. And in its nationally determined contribution, South Africa has committed to peaking its emissions between 2020 and 2030, and then a gradual decline of emissions post-2030. It has committed also to implement an economy-wide carbon tax, which I know is a topic of our conversation right now, especially as we go up into the next elections. And it recognizes that it must first prioritize eradication and poverty eradication and development. The good news is that all three of these can be reached with a climate action strategy. Our work at the Climate Reality Project is, and we hope you will join us in, is to raise awareness and education campaigns on climate change and the benefits of renewables. Through our website you can access materials that will explain how that applies to South Africa, to also engage the business sector in support for a proposed carbon tax that would send a strong market signal that could catalyze investment in renewables and expand both wind and solar in the country, and to collaborate with other NGOs in making the connection between food security, water and climate change to develop and propose climate-smart policies for the next administration. In countries where investment in distributed solar electricity and renewable energy projects can both provide poor communities access to electricity, raise them out of poverty, and create entrepreneurial opportunities through small investment and small business projects, both mitigation and adaptation goals can be met with poverty eradication and economic growth goals. However, in order to do that, we will need engagement from all sectors of society, including and especially the business sector and those people represented here, in order to hold government accountable, in order to mobilize investment and to have a transparent process. Because in short and in summary, the Paris Agreement provides a framework and a pathway for a world in which we do not have to balance economic development and a stable climate. However, civil society and representatives from every sector of the private sector will need to hold government and institutions accountable for the implementation of the nationally determined contributions, so that this process is led by a just transition, funded by equitable investment, and supported by transparency, accountability, and good governance. Thank you so very much for your time. I'm sorry I'm not with you in person, but continue to enjoy this great event.